So now let us discuss something called as cost of improvement. Ante enti? Cost of improvement means what? When we can take the cost of improvement, when we cannot consider the cost of improvement. So these are the two things which you need to consider. Cost of improvement. Okay, so whenever you are incurring some cost of improvement, two consequences can arise. Cost of improvement can happen before before 1st April 2001, or cost of improvement can happen on or after 1st April 2001. Before avachchu, after avachchu. So whenever the improvement expenses is incurred before 1st April 2001, no deduction is allowed. You cannot take this as deduction. So whenever any sort of improvement expenses incurred before 1st April 2001, no deduction is allowed. Deduction can be allowed only if the improvement expense is incurred on or after 1st April 2001. Deduction is allowed. So that's what is one important thing we need to incur. Okay, any sort of capital expenditure incurred by the previous owner or SSC for making any sort of additions or any sort of alterations to the capital asset on or after 1st April 2001. So take what section 55 says. Cost of improvement and what is the meaning of cost of improvement? It is nothing but some sort of expenditure which is nothing but something called as a capital expenditure. Then we think about capital expenditure on a capital asset. Why you are incurring this expenditure on a capital asset? For doing some sort of additions, for doing some sort of alterations, for doing some additions or alterations. For what? For a capital asset. You had incurred some sort of capital expenditure. That capital expenditure is said to be called as cost of improvement. ఆ ఎక్స్పెన్స్ అనేది 1st April 2001 తర్వాత incur అయితే you can take that as deduction. If you are incurring that before, you cannot take that as deduction. So that's what this is also a part of your section 55. So section 55 speaks about two things. One, cost of acquisition ఒకటి, another one something called as your cost of improvement. So these are the two things which you are supposed to consider. That's it. That's what is something called as your section 55. ఒక చిన్న example చూద్దాం. Let us see one small concept problem so that we can easily understand how we can apply this. Say suppose Rohit purchases. Rohit is purchasing what? A house property. Let us consider Rohit has purchased a house property for rupees 15 lakhs. So the cost of acquisition is 15 lakhs on 30th June 94. So on 30th June 94, this person has acquired a house property. After that, capital expenditure incurred is as follows. What he has done? He had constructed cost of construction of first floor. So he had purchased a building, then he had constructed something called as first floor. So ultimately what? Construction of a first floor is a capital expenditure incurred. Addition or alteration. So construction of first floor, whatever expense you are incurring, will consider as a cost of improvement expenses. Then timing is important. Eppudu incur avutunnadu? In the year 95-96. He has incurred a cost of construction expenses in the year 95-96 amounting to rupees 5 lakhs. So that's what is the first scenario. So purchase a house in 94. Immediately after purchase of the house in 94, what he has done? Constructed. So the cost of construction for the house was 5 lakhs. Then, not only that, he is also constructing second floor. Construction of second floor in the year 2002-2003 at a cost of rupees 7,50,000 is the cost of acquisition. Then, he is doing some sort of alterations to the property in the year 2006-2007 amounting to rupees 6,25,000. Now fair market value of the property, as on 1st April 2001 is going to be rupees 21 lakhs. 21 lakhs. Now what he has done? Sold. This person sold the property. And the key sold for rupees 1 crore. Property was sold for rupees 1 crore. 1 crore on 15th June 2019. Expenses on transfer. He has incurred some sort of expense on transfer amounting to 1,15,000. 1,15,000. So, information we need to calculate something called as capital gain. So, compute capital gain. So, that's what we are supposed to calculate. So, just take down this. Provision note cheskondi, example note cheskondi, then we'll see how we can solve this out. Now, let us see what is asking here. Example lo Rohit has purchased a house for 15 lakhs. So now okkasari problem ellesedam. Cost of acquisition. So cost of acquisition enta? Cost of acquisition is given as 15 lakhs. Problem lo when the person has acquired that asset, Rohit purchased the property on 30th June 2094. So the date of acquisition is 30th June 1994. Manaki section 55. What section 55 says? Section 55 clearly says whenever you are acquiring the asset other than self-generated asset, other than financial asset, on or before 1st April 2001, cost of acquisition or fair market value as on 1st April 2001, whichever is higher has to be considered as your cost of acquisition. Okay, cost of acquisition on 30th June was 15 lakhs. Fair market value entundi on 2001. The problem clearly specifies the fair market value on 1st April 2001 was 21 lakhs. So in cost of acquisition enta consider cheyali? I should not consider 15 lakhs, but I have to consider 21 lakhs because section 55 clearly says acquisition or fair market value, whichever stands high, is said to be called as cost of acquisition. So for the purpose of section 55, my cost of acquisition is going to be 21 lakhs. Now this is cost of acquisition. Then comes about your improvement. Just now you have discussed section 55 em cheptundi, if you are incurring the improvement expenses before 1st April 2001, no, you can't take. If you are incurring improvement expenses on or after 1st April 2001, then only you can take. Now problem koste purchased on 1st April 94, cost of construction of first floor in 95-96. This is before 1st April 2001. So this 5 lakhs will not be allowed as deduction. So 5 lakhs you can't take that as deduction. Then second floor when it has been constructed after 1st April 2001. So this you can take that as deduction. Alteration of the house is also done after 1st April 2001. This also you can take that as a deduction as per your cost of improvement. So 3 cost of improvement expenses low. The first one I can't take because that was incurred before 1st April 2001. So now let us see here. Let us start working with the problem. Solution here. Let us put a heading here. Computation of capital gain or loss for the relevant assessment year so and so. Then what? Then we need to consider something called as our full value of consideration. Take something called as our full value of consideration. And the full value of consideration is nothing but your sale consideration. This person is selling the property for 1 crore. Eppudu this property, just change the date here. This is 19. Okay, the property was sold for 1 crore on 15th June 2019. So sale consideration anta 1 crore. Consider the sale consideration as 1 crore. Then what? Then less expenses on transfer. You are having expense on transfer. And the selling expense on transfer 1,15,000 is given as your expense on transfer. So come here, take this as 1,15,000. Then you will be getting 98,85,000. What is this called as? Is something called as the net sale considerations. This is something called as the net sale consideration. Now, from this, what I need to do? I need to reduce either my cost of acquisition or my indexed cost of acquisition. When I will take cost of acquisition, when we will take indexed cost of acquisition. For that, we need to see the period of holding. ఎప్పుడు కొంటున్నాడు? He is purchasing this on 94, and when the asset is sold on 2019. So period of holding is more than 3 years. As period of holding is more than 3 years, ultimately what I will call that as a long-term capital asset. As it is a long-term capital asset, we can provide the benefit of indexation. Now, what is the cost of acquisition we have already done? So we call this as your working note number 1. So what is the cost of acquisition? 21 lakhs is the cost of acquisition. You take 21 lakhs as your cost of acquisition. ఏం చేయాలి? How do I calculate the index cost of acquisition? Index table has been started from 2001 and 2002. 2001 and 2002 lo the index value is 100. So ultimately how I have to consider 100 index value. When it is 100 as index value, the fair market value on the debt is going to be 21 lakhs. Now you are transferring the current year. In the current year, the index value is nothing but 289. For 289, what is the index value? So ultimately what I will do, I'll just simply do the cross multiplication. So here your index cost of acquisition will be what? 21 lakhs into 289 divided by 100. That gives you your index cost of acquisition. So let us quickly calculate your index cost of acquisition there. 21 lakhs into 289 divided by 100 cheste, you'll be getting 60 lakhs. You'll be getting something called as 60 lakhs 69,000. 60 lakhs 69,000 is the indexed cost of acquisition. Then we need to reduce something called as indexed cost of improvement. 3 improvements are there. One improvement expense is incurred in 95-96, which you can't take. Second improvement is happening in 2002, 2003 and 6-7. So these 2 things you can consider. Now take your cost of improvement as what? 7 lakhs 50,000. Take that as 7 lakh 50,000. 7,50,000 into index value for the year of transfer. Index value for the year of transfer is nothing but this. So ultimately that I have to divide with something called as index value for the year of improvement. Index value for the year of improvement. Improvement eppudu avutundi? Improvement is happening in the year 2-3. Improvement is happening in the year 2-3. 2-3 ki, if you look into the index table, the value will be 105. So index value I need to consider it as 105. So ultimately 7,50,000 into 289 divided by 105 cheste, I'll be getting the total cost of improvement, which is nothing but 20 lakhs, which is nothing but 20 lakhs 64,286. This is nothing but your cost of improvement. ఇదొకటే కాకుండా you are also having some other cost of improvement less your indexed cost of improvement. Now what is the expenses here? Cost of alteration was 6,25,000. When you are incurring 6,700, the index value will be 122. So 6,25,000. Take 6,25,000 into 289 divided by 122. If we do this, we'll be getting something called as 14,80,533. Now if you reduce this, you will be getting something called as your long-term capital gain. Let us see what is the value you are getting there. 98 lakhs 85,000 minus index cost of acquisition 60 lakhs 69,000 minus 20,64,286 minus 14,80,533 చేస్తే you will be getting a taxable capital gain of 2,71,181. So that will be something called as a taxable long-term capital gain. So in the example, how you calculate your indexation, this is one small example. So just take it down. So once this is done, we'll get into something called as the special cases. Insurance, stock, these two things we'll discuss today. Okay, so now let us move on to the special cases. Capital gains in special cases. Capital gains in special cases. So special cases lo capital gains ela calculate cheyali. So what are the special cases basically? Exceptions to section 45. See, మనం already starting class lo we have discussed 45 subsection 1a, 45 subsection 2, 45 subsection 5. These all are the exceptions to the charging section. Now we are going to discuss this in detail, how we can calculate the capital gains in the cases of your special cases. So let us start with the first section, which is nothing but section 45 subsection 1a. Section 45 subsection 1a, which is nothing but water, which speaks about something called as capital gains in case of water, in case of damage, or it can be destruction, okay, anything which is called as damage or destruction into the of capital asset. So you are having a capital asset, the capital asset is damaged or the capital asset is destroyed. అప్పుడు మనం ఏం సెక్షన్ అప్లై చేయాలి? 45 subsection 1a has to be applied. So ఈ సెక్షన్ ఏం చెప్తుందంటే, what this section says? This section says that you are having a capital asset. ఆ capital asset కి ఏమైంది? That capital asset is damaged or that capital asset is totally destroyed and you had received insurance compensation. మనకు ఆ క్యాపిటల్ అసెట్ మీద ఒక ఇన్సూరెన్స్ పాలసీ ఉంది కాబట్టి ఐ హ్యాడ్ రిసీవ్డ్ సమ్ సార్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఇన్సూరెన్స్ కాంపన్సేషన్, దెన్ దిస్ సెక్షన్ ఈజ్ అప్లికబుల్. సో క్యాపిటల్ అసెట్ డిస్ట్రాయ్ అయింది, ఇన్సూరెన్స్ కాంపన్సేషన్ ఏం లేదు, దెన్ అల్టిమేట్లీ ఐ నీడ్ నాట్ అప్లై సెక్షన్ 45 subsection 1a. So 45 1a is only applicable where capital asset is damaged or destroyed and you receive something called as the insurance compensation, then only this provision is going to be applicable. Then what? Then it also says how the destruction can happen. If you are doing a self destruction, 45 1a is not applicable. The section clearly says that damage or destruction happens as a result of what? As a result of the following. So ultimately, natural calamity. So there is a natural calamity. See, what is the meaning of natural calamity? Earthquake, floods, typhoon, tsunami, whatever it is, any act of the nature is something called as the natural calamity. So if your building is destroyed or your capital asset is destroyed by natural calamity, then if you are receiving some insurance compensation, then 45 1a is applicable. Second condition ఏంటి? Second instance is what? Second instance, there are some sort of riots happening or there are some sort of civil disturbance happening. Riots అంటే గొడవలు. Say two communities మధ్యన క్లాష్, అలాంటి వాటిని riots అంటాం. అలాంటప్పుడు సే హిందూ ముస్లిం యాక్టివిటీస్ ఆర్ సమ్ వాట్ ఎవర్ ఇట్ ఈస్, అలాంటి దగ్గర ఎనీ సార్ట్ ఆఫ్ డ్యామేజ్, సమ్ పర్సన్ ఈస్ కమింగ్ టు యువర్ బిల్డింగ్, damaging your building, so ultimately capital asset is destroyed due to something called as your riot or civil disturbances. So a lot of examples you can take. తెలంగాణ ఆంధ్ర సెపరేషన్, ఆ టైంలో మనకి లాట్ ఆఫ్ సివిల్ డిస్టర్బెన్స్ హ్యాపెన్. సో అలాంటప్పుడు ఏంటి, వాట్ ఎవర్ ఈస్ విజిబుల్ పీపుల్ డిస్ట్రాయ్ దట్. అలాంటి యాక్టివిటీస్లో మన క్యాపిటల్ అసెట్ ఏమైనా డిస్ట్రాయ్ అయితే దెన్ దట్ హ్యాస్ ఎ రిజల్ట్ ఇన్ సంథింగ్ కాల్డ్ యాజ్ అవర్ section 45 subsection 1a if you receive insurance compensation. Third point says there is some sort of accidental fire. Sudden ga fire broke out అయింది, Suddenly due to the fire broke out, ultimately what happened, capital asset destroy అయిపోయింది, or there is some sort of explosion, there is some sort of explosion, suddenly ఏదో explode అయింది, so దాని నుంచి you are having a loss in your capital asset and you are having an insurance policy on the capital asset, then 45(1)(a) is applicable. Then the last one, action by an enemy. Action by an enemy, you are having your enemy and that enemy is entering into your place and he is doing some sort of damage to your capital asset, that's what is something called as action by an enemy. Or the next point says action taken in combating, action taken in combating, okay, an enemy. Your enemy has entered into your place, enemy is trying to do beat you, what you are trying, you are for by protecting yourself you are trying to combat your enemy, counterattack your enemy, దాంట్లో ఏమైంది, కొంత ప్రాపర్టీ డ్యామేజ్ అయింది, సో యు ఆర్ గెటింగ్ సమ్ సార్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఇన్సూరెన్స్ కాంపన్సేషన్. సో ఈ ఫాలోయింగ్ 4 cases లో if you get an insurance compensation then only this section is applicable, otherwise this section is not going to be applicable. So these are the, again, డ్యామేజ్ అయింది క్యాపిటల్ అసెట్, ఎలా డ్యామేజ్ అయింది, న్యాచురల్ కెలామిటీ, రాయిట్ ఆర్ సివిల్ డిస్టర్బెన్సెస్, యాక్సిడెంట్, ఫైర్ ఎక్స్ప్లోజన్, combat by an action by an enemy or combat. So ఈ 4 instances ద్వారా if your capital asset is damaged and you're receiving insurance compensation, then this section is applicable. So once this section is applicable, we are supposed to calculate something called as our capital gains. Now let us try to see how we can calculate the capital gains under section 45 subsection 1a. 45 subsection 1a, see any capital gains మనకు కావాల్సింది ఏంటి, full value of consideration, full value of consideration ఏంటది, ఇక్కడ నేను సేల్ ఏం చేయట్లేదు, నా ప్రాపర్టీ డ్యామేజ్ అయిపోయింది, నాకు ఇన్సూరెన్స్ కాంపన్సేషన్ వచ్చింది, సో వాట్ కుడ్ బి ద ఫుల్ వాల్యూ ఆఫ్ కన్సిడరేషన్. 45(1)(a) ఏం చెప్తుందంటే 45(1)(a) clearly says value of money received, whatever money you are receiving, value of money plus, if you are receiving in addition to the money, plus fair market value as on the date. So whatever value of money you are receiving, so generally value of money plus fair market value, generally compensation received will be considered as the full value of consideration. ఎంతైతే compensation వస్తుందో that compensation received will be called as a full value of consideration. Now full value of consideration తీసుకుంటున్నాం, then what I have to do, I need to reduce what, either cost of acquisition or something called as indexed cost of acquisition. ఎప్పుడు cost of acquisition, short term capital asset అయితే cost of acquisition. When I will call that as short term capital asset, see ఈ provision basically will not apply for a financial asset. Financial asset destruction will not happen. So the destruction may happen for your land and buildings, or destruction may happen for other assets. So other assets. So depending upon the situation, I can simply say the period of holding is what, 24 months. The period of holding is what, 36 months. 24 months kanda takku hold cheste land and building, that will be called as a short term. Then you will be providing something called as cost of acquisition. If you hold for a period of 24 or more, it will be called as long term, then you are supposed to provide indexation. Any other asset, if you hold for a period of less than 36 months, it will be called as short term. 36 or more, that will be called as long term. So depending upon that, you need to provide the benefit of indexation. Now the interesting fact is, indexation ఎలా provide చేయాలి, how do I provide the indexation? Generally by default మనం ఏం చేస్తాం, in cost of acquisition into index value for the year of transfer. ఏ ఇయర్ అయితే మనం ట్రాన్స్ఫర్ చేస్తున్నామో ఆ ఇయర్ index value for the year of transfer generally will consider divided by index value for year of acquisition. Index value for year of transfer divided by index value for the year of acquisition. I will come to this point later stage. So now this difference will give you something called as a long-term capital gain or something called as a short-term capital gain. Put taxability. That's what is the other thing we need to understand. Taxable event. So when this is taxable, already we have discussed that capital gain is taxable not in year of destruction, not in the year of destruction కానీ ఎప్పుడు but in year of receipt of ఇన్సూరెన్స్ కాంపన్సేషన్. ఏ ఇయర్ అయితే అసెట్ డ్యామేజ్ అయిందో ఆ ఇయర్ నేను క్యాపిటల్ గెయిన్స్ పే చేయాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు. ఏ ఇయర్ పే చేయాలి? ఏ ఇయర్ అయితే నాకు ఇన్సూరెన్స్ కాంపన్సేషన్ వస్తుందో ఆ ఇయర్ పే చేయాలి. నౌ దేర్ మే బి కేసెస్ వేర్ 2 years ఆర్ దేర్. Damage is happening in 1920 or damage is happening in 1819, compensation is received in 1920. Okay, damage happened 1920, 1819, compensation received in 1920. ఇప్పుడు as per this point I need to compute the capital gains in 1920. But indexation ఎప్పటివరకు తీసుకోవాలి? Whether indexation I have to consider till 1819 or whether indexation I have to consider till 1920. దానికోసం 45(1)(a) ఏం చెప్తుందంటే it clearly says indexation not for the year of transfer, indexation for the year in which damage happened. ఏ ఇయర్ అయితే ప్రాపర్టీ డ్యామేజ్ అయిందో ఆ ఇయర్ వరకు ఇండెక్సేషన్ క్యాలిక్యులేట్ చేయాలి. క్యాలిక్యులేట్ చేసి క్యాపిటల్ గెయిన్స్ ఎప్పుడు పే చేయాలి? ఇన్ ద ఇయర్ ఇన్ విచ్ ద కాంపన్సేషన్ ఈస్ రిసీవ్డ్. ఇండెక్సేషన్ I will take till only the damage because 1920 the asset is not there. Asset is there only till 1819. So indexation I will consider only till 1819. So that's what is something called as per indexed cost of acquisition. Again 45(1)(a) ఏం చెప్తుంది? 45(1)(a) clearly says whenever your capital asset is damaged by fire, by accident, by any sort of natural calamities, riots or civil disturbances or any action of an enemy or combating an enemy, capital asset destroy అయిపోయి ఇన్సూరెన్స్ కాంపన్సేషన్ వస్తే 45(1)(a) is applicable. So what is the summary of 45(1)(a)? It says tax pay చేయాలి కానీ ఎప్పుడు? Not in the year of damage but in the year of construction. So it says whatever compensation you are receiving, that compensation received is said to be called as the full value of consideration. దాని నుంచి మనం ఏం చేస్తాం? ఇండెక్స్డ్ కాస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఎక్విజిషన్ ఆర్ కాస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఎక్విజిషన్ ఇచ్చేస్తాం. ఇండెక్స్ కాస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఎక్విజిషన్ ఎప్పుడు క్యాలిక్యులేట్ చేయాలి? జనరల్లీ టిల్ ద ఇయర్ ఆఫ్ ట్రాన్స్ఫర్, బట్ ఫర్ 45 సబ్సెక్షన్ 1A డ్యామేజ్, ఏ ఇయర్ అయితే డ్యామేజ్ అవుతుందో టిల్ దట్ ఇయర్ యూ నీడ్ టు క్యాలిక్యులేట్ ద ఇండెక్స్ కాస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఎక్విజిషన్. సో ద డిఫరెన్స్ వుడ్ బి సంథింగ్ కాల్డ్ యాజ్ పర్ లాంగ్ టర్మ్ క్యాపిటల్ గెయిన్. That's it. So now let us do one problem based upon 45 subsection 1A. Okay. Okay, so let us quickly read the problem and let us try to solve the problem now. Mr. A, individual, carrying on business. His stock and machinery were damaged and destroyed in the fire accident. The value of the stock lost was 6,50,000. The value of the stock lost was 6,50,000. Okay. Certain portion of machinery could be salvaged. Opening WDV of the block as on 1st April 2019 was 10,80,000. During the process of safeguarding machinery and in the firefighting operations, Mr. A lost his gold chain and diamond ring, which he purchased in April 2005 for 1,20,000. The market value of these items on the date of fire accident was 1,80,000. So 1,80,000 is the value. Now Mr. A received the following amounts from the insurance company: 4,80,000 towards loss of stock, 6 lakhs towards what? Damage of machinery, 4 lakhs towards your gold chain and ring. So 3 assets are there. We are having 3 assets. We are basically having 3 assets. Now 3 assets law, he is asking you to calculate the capital gain. You need to calculate the capital gain for this scenario. So you are supposed to compute something called as the capital gain. ఎలా క్యాలిక్యులేట్ చేస్తాం? అండ్ 45 subsection 1A దేనికి అప్లై అవుతుంది? 45 subsection 1A is only applicable for damage or destruction of something called as a capital asset. Is stock a capital asset? No. Stock is not a capital asset. If you go back to the definition of capital asset, 2 subsection 14, if you look into 2 subsection 14, there we have discussed the definition of something called as the capital asset. దాంట్లో మనం కన్సిడర్ చేసింది ఏంటి? Capital asset means any property of any kind, movable or immovable, but does not include stock in trade. So stock in trade అనేది capital asset కాదు. So when it is not a capital asset, for the stock in trade, 45(1)(a is not going to be applicable. So 45(1)(a applicable కాదు. But ఏం అప్లై అవుతుంది అక్కడ? It's a business loss that you are supposed to calculate under your business income. So when you calculate your income under profits and gains from business profession, there you need to take this as a deduction. Okay, let us start with one by one. First, what is your asset? Stock is your asset. You need to clearly mention stock is not a capital asset, is not a capital asset. So as it is not a capital asset, 45 subsection 1a is not applicable. So you are not going to apply something called as the 45 1a. But this loss, whatever loss you are having, can be claimed as deduction under the head profits and gains from business or profession. ఎంత లాస్ వస్తుంది అక్కడ మనకి? Let us see how much loss you are getting. Here the loss is what? The value of the stock is 6,50,000. 6,50,000 worth of stock loss అయిపోతే నాకు ఇన్సూరెన్స్ కంపెనీ నుంచి ఎంత వచ్చింది? 4,80,000 వచ్చింది. So the difference is nothing but the loss. Now loss is equal to value of stock less compensation received. So value of the stock is what? 6 lakhs. Compensation received is what? 4,80,000. So the difference is what? 1,70,000 is nothing but the difference. Oh sorry, 6,50,000. This is 6,50,000. So ultimately your loss is nothing but 6,50,000 minus 4,80,000, that gives you 1,70,000. So the first part answer is nothing but the loss is nothing but 1,70,000. So this loss 1,70,000, you can take that as deduction. You can take that as deduction when you are computing your profits and gains from business or profession. Second one, machinery. Machinery is a capital asset. Machinery is a capital asset. Capital asset destroyed on account of fire. So ultimately 45 subsection 1a is applicable. So 45 subsection 1a is going to be applicable. Okay, so 45 subsection 1a is going to be applicable. So once this section 45 subsection 1a is applicable, I need to compute taxable capital gain. Compute taxable capital gain. So how we calculate this? Full value of consideration. What is the full value of consideration? Whatever compensation received. See, if you go back to the provision, what is the full value of consideration here? And whatever compensation received is nothing but the full value of compensation. Damage of plant and machinery, what is the compensation you are receiving? 6 lakhs is the compensation received. So 6 lakhs will be something called as our full value of consideration less what we will do. One important point, of course, tomorrow I will clearly mention when we are going through section 50. Tomorrow I will discuss section 50. There again I will come back to this point. Depreciable asset. If the capital asset is a depreciable asset, even though the period of holding is more than 24 or is more than 36 months, that will be always said to be called as a short-term capital gain. Asset long-term అయినా సరే దాన్ని ఏమంటాం మనం? short-term capital gain అంటాం. So that is the reason for depreciable asset you should not calculate the indexation. The reason is what? Depreciable asset, even though the period of holding is more than 24 months or is more than 36 months, by default that will be called as a short-term capital gain. That again tomorrow I will discuss when I am going through something called as section 50. So రేపు ఏం చేస్తా అంటే I will cover section 50, section 50B and so on. So other part of section 50 I will try to cover tomorrow. Now, yeah, full value of consideration is given as 6 lakhs. Then what I will do? Cost of acquisition. I won't be taking index cost of acquisition, but I will be taking only something called as cost of acquisition. So ఏంటి cost of acquisition? For the time being, as we have not covered section 50, you just consider your WDV as on 1st April 2019 will be your cost of acquisition. Tomorrow we'll discuss in detail. So here the cost of acquisition is going to be 10 lakhs 80,000 is nothing but your cost of acquisition. Then what is the difference? The difference is nothing but either your, just now I had mentioned depreciable asset kabatti I cannot call this as long term, I will call that as a short term. Either you will be having gain or you will be having loss. So in this problem 6 lakhs minus 10 lakh 80,000 you are getting something called as 4 lakh 80,000 is nothing but your short term capital loss. So done with the second asset also. Third asset, what is telling you? Let us go back to the problem. Third asset he is telling you gold chain పోయింది. What is the market value? See, A lost his gold chain and a diamond ring which he has purchased on 1st April 2005 for rupees 1,20,000. The market value of these items on the accident date was 1,80,000. కానీ నాకు ఇది అనవసరం. Fair market value on the date of accident is not important for me. What is important? Compensation received is important, because 45 subsection money says what? Compensation received will be considered as our full value of consideration. So computation of capital gains in case of gold ring. Now full value of consideration. ఎంత వచ్చింది ఇన్సూరెన్స్ కంపెనీ నుంచి? 4 lakhs. You are getting something called as 4 lakhs. Now 4 lakhs is the money which is received. Now when this has been purchased? This has been purchased in 2005. Accident ఎప్పుడు అవుతుంది? Accident happened on 1st January 2019. So that gold chain and diamond ring was used for a period of more than 36 months. As it is used for a period of more than 36 months, we will call that as a long-term capital asset. So long-term capital asset కాబట్టి ఏం చేయాలి మనం? Indexed cost of acquisition has to be provided. What will consider? Take the cost of acquisition was purchased for 1,20,000. So 1,20,000 is the cost. Take 1,20,000 into ఎప్పటివరకు తీసుకోవాలను? Into the year of damage. ఎప్పుడైంది డ్యామేజ్? Damage is happening on 1st January 1999. So damage is happening in the year 1st January 1999. So we need to consider the index value for the year what? 1819. 1819 index value I need to consider. So what is the index value for 1819? Let me see. So the index value for 1819 will be 280. So 1819 is going to be 280. So ultimately index value for the year of damage is 280 divided by index value for the year of acquisition. Okay, so now so you are purchasing that asset in which year? So let us say the gold chain was purchased in 2005. Okay, so year ki what is the index value? Let us say the index value for that year is nothing but 117. So I will consider the index value to be 117. Now divided by 117. Now if I calculate, I'll be getting the indexed cost of acquisition there. 1,20,000 into 280 divided by 117 cheste, we'll be getting an indexed cost of acquisition of 2,87,179. So what is the difference? The difference is nothing but 1,12,821. 1,12,821. So this is nothing but something called as the long-term capital gain. So that's what is nothing but your application of section 45 subsection 1a. Okay, so just Quickly take it down. Conversion of capital asset into stock in trade. So now let us discuss the provision regarding conversion of capital asset into something called as stock in trade. ఎలా క్యాలిక్యులేట్ చేస్తాం? For this we need to apply section 45 subsection 2. Section 45 subsection 2 we are supposed to apply. So already this part we have discussed as an exception. ఏం డిస్కస్ చేసాం? We have discussed that capital gain is taxable not in year of conversion. Capital gain is taxable not in the year of conversion, but ఎప్పుడు? But taxable in year of transfer of కన్వర్టెడ్ అసెట్. ఏ అసెట్ అయితే మనం కన్వర్ట్ చేస్తున్నామో ఆ అసెట్ ఏ ఇయర్ అయితే సేల్ చేస్తామో దెన్ ఓన్లీ ద క్యాపిటల్ గెయిన్ ఈస్ taxable. Okay, taxable in the previous year in which the stock in trade is sold but not the capital asset is converted. So simple గా చెప్పాలంటే taxable in year in which stock in trade is sold but not in the year of conversion. That's what is one important point we need to consider. So ఇది సేల్ కానే కాదు, కానీ we are charging this as a sale. Why? Because 2 subsection 47, if you go to 2 subsection 47, there one point is clearly mentioned. Conversion of stock in trade, capital asset into stock in trade is called as a transfer. Now applicability of section 45 subsection 2 ఎలా క్యాలిక్యులేట్ చేస్తాం? Let us see. Capital gain calculate చేయాలంటే always I need to have something called as full value of consideration. Always I need to require something called as full value of consideration. ఇక్కడ నేను సేల్ చేస్తే కదా కన్సిడరేషన్ ఉండేది, I have not done a sale. So that's the reason 45 subsection says you are supposed to take something called as a notional full value of consideration. అంటే ఏంటి? Fair market value as on date of conversion. Convert చేసిన రోజు whatever fair market value you are having, that you are supposed to consider. Fair market value as on date of conversion మనం consider చేయాలి. From this what we are supposed to? From this you are supposed to provide something called as indexation. Less. I need to provide something called as indexation. Or not only indexation, I need to reduce something called as our cost of acquisition. So దీని నుంచి ఏం reduce చేయాలి? Cost of acquisition reduce చేయాలి. Or if that is a long term capital asset, I have to provide something called as indexed cost of acquisition. Either cost of acquisition I have to reduce, or I have to reduce something called as indexed cost of acquisition. Now ఇక్కడ two things arises. Convert అయిన ఇయర్ మనం క్యాపిటల్ గెయిన్స్ పే చేయట్లేదు. ఎప్పుడు పే చేస్తున్నాం క్యాపిటల్ గెయిన్స్? స్టాక్ ఇన్ ట్రేడ్ ఎప్పుడైతే సేల్ అవుతుందో ఆ ఇయర్. సే లెట్ మీ టేక్ ఎన్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ హియర్. యు ఆర్ హ్యావింగ్ ఏ ల్యాండ్. That land you are holding as a capital asset. Now this land you had converted to stock in trade. Eppudu? Say suppose stock in trade you are converting this into stock in trade in the year, let us consider 2005. 2005 లో స్టాక్ ఇన్ ట్రేడ్ కింద కన్వర్ట్ చేసాం. కానీ ఈ స్టాక్ ఇన్ ట్రేడ్ ఎప్పుడు సేల్ చేస్తున్నాను నేను? I am selling this in 1920. I am selling this in the year 1920. So capital gains ఎప్పుడు పే చేయాలి? 1920 లో పే చేయాలి. Now indexation ఎప్పుడు క్యాలిక్యులేట్ చేయాలి? కన్వర్జన్ వరకు సేల్ చేసినప్పుడు, క్యాపిటల్ గెయిన్స్ క్యాలిక్యులేట్ చేసినప్పుడు. సో ద యాక్ట్ క్లియర్లీ సేస్ ఇండెక్స్డ్ కాస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఎక్విజిషన్ ఎలా క్యాలిక్యులేట్ చేస్తామంటే కాస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఎక్విజిషన్ ఇంటూ ఇండెక్స్ వాల్యూ ఫర్ ద ఇయర్ ఆఫ్ కన్వర్జన్. ఏ ఇయర్ అయితే కన్వర్ట్ చేస్తున్నామో దట్ ఇయర్ ఐ హ్యావ్ టు కన్సిడర్ దిస్ ఇండెక్స్ వాల్యూ ఫర్ ద ఇయర్ ఆఫ్ ఎక్విజిషన్. That will give you something called as the cost of acquisition. So this difference could be something called as long term capital gain or something called as short term capital gain. So the difference is either this will be long term capital gain or this could be something called as short term capital gain. So that's what is the application of section 45 subsection 2. Now ఈ బేస్ మీద ఒక చిన్న ప్రాబ్లం చూద్దాం. Let us see one small problem based upon this. Okay, one second. X converts his capital asset ఎప్పుడు acquire చేస్తున్నాడు? Acquired on June 10th 2003 for 60,000 into stock in trade. Okay, on March 10 2019, fair market value on the date of above conversion was 5,50,000. He subsequently sells the stock in trade so converted for 6 lakhs. So ఎంతైతే స్టాక్ ఇన్ ట్రేడ్ కన్వర్ట్ చేస్తున్నాడో దాన్ని ఎంతకి సేల్ చేస్తున్నాడు? 6 lakhs సేల్ చేస్తున్నాడు. డిస్కస్ ద చార్జబిలిటీ ఆఫ్ క్యాపిటల్ గెయిన్. So conversion of capital asset into stock in trade, ultimately 45 substitute is applicable. So what 45 substitute says? Fair market value on the date of conversion. So what is the fair market value on the date of conversion? 5,50,000 is nothing but the fair market value on the date of conversion. So then we'll call this as a full value of consideration. ఎప్పుడు sells the stock in trade so converted in the year 10th June 2019. That means capital gain is taxable for the previous year 1920. So the taxability of the capital gain is for the previous year 1920. ఎందుకు? ఎప్పుడైతే కన్వర్టెడ్ అసెట్ సేల్ చేస్తున్నామో ఆ ఇయర్ లో మాత్రమే you are supposed to charge the capital gain. So as you are converting in that year, capital gain is taxable in that year. Now full value of consideration వచ్చేసింది. Less I need to reduce. What I need to reduce? ఇది లాంగ్ టర్మ్ క్యాపిటల్ అసెట్ షార్ట్ టర్మ్ క్యాపిటల్ అసెట్? acquired 2003, converted in 2000, when the conversion happened? 2019. So ultimately I will call this as a long term capital asset. So as it is a long term capital asset, I have to provide the benefit of indexation. At what cost he has acquired? He has acquired the asset at a cost of 60,000. Okay, when the conversion happened? The conversion into stock in trade on March 10th 2019. The conversion happened on March 10th 2019. So you need to provide the indexation till March 10th 2019. So what is the index value for 1819? Index value for 1819 is going to be 280 divided by index value for the year of acquisition. ఎప్పుడు acquire చేస్తున్నాడు? 2003 లో acquire చేస్తాడు. So what is the index value for the year? 34. The index value is going to be 109. So ultimately ఎంత? 60,000 into 280 divided by 109. That gives you 1,54,128 as your indexed cost of acquisition. So this is nothing but your indexed cost of acquisition. The difference is going to be called as your long term capital gain. So 5,50,000 minus this will give you a capital gain of 3,95,871. So there's nothing but the long term capital gain which is supposed to be taxable. So that's it. So that's what is the summary of your 45 subsection 2a. I hope this is clear. Okay, so that's what is something called as section 45 subsection 2a.